There are 3 writing questions that everyone finds super difficult in the DET. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what those 3 questions are. I'll show you how to make them as easy as possible. We'll do some practice questions together, and I'll even give you 160 level answers for each question. So, let's get started. Hello, I'm Francis from Last Minute English, and today we're looking at the most difficult writing questions in the Duolingo English Test. So we're going to look at examples of each question, and then we'll do some practice, and I'll give you my full answers. But first, let's talk about a strategy that you can use, some important things to focus on for any writing question to make sure you get a really good score. So there are 5 important things that you should do. The first one is to plan your answer. Now, this doesn't need to be like a long plan, and you don't have a long time to plan. But just before you start writing, I want you to be thinking, okay, what are the main things I'm going to include in my answer? And you can't spend more than like 20 seconds deciding this. But those 20 seconds are super important. If you just start writing, your answer is going to be like a little bit of everything. It's going to be a mess. So planning, even just a quick plan, is a great way to improve your score. Something else important is to include high-level grammar and high-level vocabulary if you can. We'll be looking at those a little bit later. And also connect your different ideas using linking words. If you're able to include complex sentences, so not just simple, but some longer connected sentences, that's really good. And at the end, try to leave a few seconds just to very quickly proofread. Check your answer for any simple mistakes. So let's jump into the first of our different question types, and we're going to do a practice of it as well. And this question type is the writing sample. So this is difficult for probably 3 reasons. First of all, it's a long writing activity. Second, it comes at the end of the test, so you might be feeling quite tired. And third, the pressure's on, because if you're applying to university or maybe applying for a job, they can read your writing sample. So you want to give a good impression of yourself and do a good job. So let's see an example question. So here's one that we picked out. Some people believe that introducing a tax on junk food is a good way to reduce obesity. To what extent do you agree or disagree? If you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future DET videos. Now, for every writing sample question, you have 5 minutes, and I'd like to give you the opportunity now to actually have a try. Okay, so we're going to put this question on the screen. We're going to give you a 5-minute timer, so you don't need to worry about the time. And if you want, you can actually have a try. And also, if you want to share it in the comments as well, then feel free, and I'll take a look at it as well, and I'll give you my feedback. But if you just want to skip to the end and take a look at my example answer, that's fine. That's okay. It's okay to be a little lazy sometimes, but I want to give you this 5 minutes so that if you want to have a try, you can do. Okay? So 5 minutes, if you're going to have a try, begins now. Okay, so welcome back. So if you did do 5 minutes of writing, then great job. I think you've made the right decision. If not, that's fine. It's okay. Let's take a look at my 160 level answer. So we're going to read through it. We'll also put this on screen so you can screenshot it if you like and study it in your own time. But let's read through. So, obesity is a growing problem in many parts of the world, and governments are exploring different ways to address it. So we've included a really important word there at the start, obesity. So one of the key words from the question. One suggestion has been to introduce a tax on junk food to discourage unhealthy eating habits. In my view, this approach can play a useful role, though it definitely isn't a complete solution. So we've started in a general way, this is our introduction part, a general way saying like there are different ways to try to solve obesity, and then we get a bit more narrow, a bit more focused saying about this idea about like a tax on junk food, and then at the end we give our opinion and say it could be useful, but it's not a total answer by itself. Let's continue then. So the next paragraph, to begin with, and that's a nice way of saying like, firstly, and you're showing, okay, this is the first of my points. To begin with, it is well known that price affects consumer buying decisions. By making unhealthy food more expensive, a tax could encourage people to think twice before buying it and possibly choose a healthier option instead. This is particularly true for families who are on a budget and may need to be more careful with what they spend on food. So one thing to notice there is some nice longer complex sentences. So the one where it says, by making unhealthy food more expensive, comma. That is a nice complex sentence that's going to get you a real score boost for your grammar. Next one. However, it's also important to recognize that unhealthy eating is often caused by habits and a lack of education. Now notice here, we've given the one side to say, okay, maybe tax is a good idea and here are the reasons. And then we've gone to the other side and said, well, it's not going to be a total solution because here is the other side of the argument. And we've used the word however, and that shows the reader or the AI, and also the university in this case, because it's the right example, that you can give both sides. You're open-minded and you're organizing your writing well. Let's continue. A tax on junk food may help reduce consumption. That's like how much people eat. That's a nice high-level word. But on its own, it won't teach people how to eat healthily or cook nutritious meals. And nutritious, another good word, like healthy meals. That's why any tax needs to be part of a wider public health campaign. So we've given both sides of the argument, and now we're going to give a conclusion, and we've got a good phrase to start. On the whole then, I believe a junk food tax could have a positive impact, especially if used alongside other efforts to promote better health. So it's a summary of our opinion again. So junk food tax could be good, other things we need as well. As with most complex issues, and it's complex issues, but this is also a complex sentence, so another nice sentence. As with most complex issues, there is no single solution, but I'd say that this is a step in the right direction. So that is writing sample. And of course, if you want to practice more writing sample questions, we've got videos for that. We've got videos for all of the different question types on the Duolingo English test. You can click the link down here. You can also like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video, because then you won't miss any of our future DET videos. The next question we're going to focus on is even longer than the writing sample. This is another very difficult DET question, and it is interactive writing. So in interactive writing, you get a first question. Again, you have 5 minutes to write your little essay, your mini essay, and then the AI will read your answer and it will generate a follow-up question. And so that follow-up question is in some way connected to the first question, but it's also connected to what you've written, okay? So it's pretty cool. And what you then have to do is write for another 3 minutes to answer the follow-up question. So it's 8 minutes of writing, 2 mini essays in total. And I would again suggest that you organize your answer well, and particularly for the first one. So we would want, just like with writing sample, a little introduction where you say like the general topic of this writing and your opinion or what story you're going to talk about. And then 1 or 2 paragraphs about whatever it is, your main points, and if you have time, a short conclusion at the end. So let's go, and we're going to do the practice now. We're going to do the first 5 minutes, then we'll look at my answer, and then we'll do the follow-up question. So the question that you're going to do, again, you don't have to do it, but it's good if you have a try, is this one. Think about a film you saw as a child or teenager that stayed with you. What message or lesson do you think it was trying to communicate? Okay, so stayed with you means like you remember it very well. You remembered that for a long time. All right, so 5 minutes to write your first part of the answer. Your time starts now. Okay, so welcome back. Now, I'm interested to know if you found that one more difficult or if you found the first one, the writing sample, more difficult. You can let me know in the comments. But let's take a look through my answer. And again, I'm going to read it for you. You can also see it on the screen if you want to study it by yourself. And I'm going to pick out a few of the better points that you can then follow in your own writing. So, when reflecting on films I saw during my younger years, like when I was younger, during my younger years, it's a nice phrase. One in particular stands out. I must have been around 13 when I first watched Dead Poets Society, a film about a group of students whose lives are changed by an inspiring English teacher. So it's not just an English teacher, it's an inspiring. Use some nice adjectives. At the time, I probably didn't fully grasp all the deeper messages, but something about the film stayed with me. So we're echoing those words from the question. A film that stayed with you, something about the film stayed with me. So that's our introduction, and we'll go on to the first point, so the first main paragraph. I remember feeling incredibly inspired. Strong language, strong high-level vocabulary. That education could be more than just memorizing facts, that it could be about learning to think for yourself and expressing your own ideas. So, a nice long sentence. The teacher in the film encouraged his students to seize the day. That's a real quote from Dead Poets Society. It's a very good film, actually, if you haven't seen it. It's really good. And challenge the way things had always been done. That idea really stuck with me, especially at a time in my life when I was starting to ask more questions about the world around me. So again, that is a nice long, not every sentence has to be long, but this is a nice long sentence. Let's go to the next part. Looking back, I think Dead Poets Society played a small but significant role in shaping my attitudes towards learning and creativity. And for these questions where you're reflecting, you're thinking back to something from your past, sentences like this can be really good. So let's look again. So looking back, I think, and then it's the name of the film, but you could change that for whatever other question you're talking about. So I think Dead Poets Society, I think visiting a foreign country, I think learning English, whatever it is. And then played a small but significant role in shaping my attitudes towards, and you can keep all of that the same. And then you just add some detail at the end. So I think learning English played a small but significant role in shaping my attitudes towards education and international culture. So we never say at Last Minute English that you should memorize a whole answer. It's a terrible idea. But it's really good to memorize these parts of sentences and then use them with your own details in your own answer. That's like, there's no trick to passing DET, but that's the closest thing to a trick. That's like a really fast shortcut to getting a better score. Anyway, let's continue. Even today, I sometimes think of that film when I'm facing a decision about whether to play it safe or take a chance on something new. And then a conclusion. In conclusion then, although I've seen many films since then, very few have had quite the same lasting impact. Now, lasting impact is another way of saying that the film has stayed with me, that I've remembered it. I think it goes to show how powerful a film can be, especially when you watch it at just the right moment in your life. By the way, if you are preparing for the DET, you're planning to take it soon, then we have a really good course to help you make sure that you get 120 or higher the first time you take the test. So it's our DET Complete Preparation course. It's got everything that you need, over 12 hours of video, loads of amazing resources. It's just a great way to improve your score, and the link is here under the video. So that's the first part of interactive writing, but remember, we still have to do part 2. So again, I'm going to give you the time. It's going to be 3 minutes for this follow-up question. Let's look at the question now. It says, are there some things that films can teach young people which traditional classroom education can't? Interesting question. So what can we learn from films that we don't learn in school? So 3 minutes, and then we'll come and have a look at my answer. All right, your time starts now. Okay, welcome back. Let's take a look through my answer to this follow-up question. So, I do believe that there are certain things films can teach young people that go beyond what's typically covered in the classroom. As I mentioned previously, and that's a good phrase, so I'm going to say, as I mentioned previously, and then the name of the film that I talked about in part 1. Okay, and you can do that with whatever it is that your question will be about. As I mentioned previously, so as I said before, Dead Poets Society really opened my eyes to the emotional side of education, the importance of thinking independently and using your creativity. In my experience, schools often focus on academic performance and structured learning, while films can explore more personal, emotional, or philosophical ideas that aren't always easy to discuss in a traditional classroom. Okay, so a lot of things there. Let's take a look at the part where it says more personal, emotional, or philosophical reasons. Now, this is what's called a rule of 3, and it's a really good trick that you can use in English writing. You say one thing, a second thing, and a third thing, or one thing, a second thing, or a third thing. Okay, so I thought that watching Francis's videos was entertaining, educational, and great. You have to say it about something more interesting than that. But you say 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, or 3. And if you can put those in, it really gives like a great feeling to your writing. It feels like not just a native speaker writing, but actually like a journalist or a professional writer. Then we continue. In some cases, films can also present situations or viewpoints that young people might not come across in their everyday lives. This can help build empathy, so a nice high-level word. So empathy, when you share a feeling, you can try to understand the way that other people feel and give them a deeper understanding of the world. In short, and this is our nice way to complete this, like our little, it's not a complete conclusion because this is a shorter answer, but it's our mini conclusion. In short, although classroom learning is essential, films definitely have the potential to complement it in a way that really makes a difference. So we've looked at 2 of our 3 difficult DET writing tasks. We've looked at writing sample, we have looked at interactive writing, and now the last one, it's a little bit easier, but it's still pretty difficult, and it's quite intense. It's write about the photo. And so this question looks like this. You get a photo, and of course you have to write about it, and you have 60 seconds to write, so it's pretty intense. You want to try to get as much down as you can, but 60 seconds is not a long time, so you really have to make your planning quite short, like 5 or 10 seconds of planning, not much time. I think really you have to just basically get started straight away with this one. So again, I'm going to give you the challenge of doing this by yourself first, and then we'll look at my answer. So just try to write as much as you can, and you'll have 60 seconds, and that time starts now. Okay, so welcome back. Let's take a look through my answer. Now, realistically, there's too much in my answer to be able to write it in 60 seconds. It's unrealistically long. But the reason that I show this to you is so that you can take little bits and pieces and learn them and then use them in your own answers, okay? And you can also maybe learn some vocabulary and things like that. So let's take a look through. The first thing that catches my eye is the photo's main focus, and that, you can learn that and use that, and that will be true for, I think, 100 out of 100 photos. 100% of photos you can start by saying, the first thing that catches my eye is the photo's main focus, and then you just say what it is. The tiger in the jungle, or the man drinking a beer next to a supermarket. Whatever it is. A man and a woman, in this photo, standing together, packing a large, reusable moving box. So, reusable is really the only high-level sentence, the high-level word in this sentence, but it makes the whole sentence feel high-level. So that's the power of just one or two little advanced vocabulary items. Next sentence. The woman, dressed in a pink jumper and white jeans, is holding something wrapped up in brown paper, while the man holds the box steady. And then we continue. They both appear relaxed and focused, quietly working together on what looks like a house move, so they're moving house. This is evidenced by the piles of homeware around them. Homeware is a nice word, so that's like all of the different things you have in your house, like your plates and your clothes and all kinds of things. It looks like they're packing up their kitchen before moving out. It seems that the process is well organized, as they have large, purpose-made boxes and are using appropriate wrapping materials. So in this paragraph, what we're doing is making some guesses. We're using phrases where it looks like, or it seems that. So we're saying, I'm not totally sure, but I can use my logic and my life experience to say, I think that they are like either maybe arriving at the house and unpacking, or more likely, they're leaving their house, they're packing everything before they go. And then we have a little conclusion, which again, in 60 seconds, it's probably not very likely that you'll have time for a conclusion, but we'll look at one anyway. All in all, the photo evokes a sense of cooperation, organization, and ordinary domestic life. That's another one of those rules of three: cooperation, organization, and ordinary domestic life. Maybe even better than this would be if those three words were all just one word. So like cooperation, organization, and domestication. But in this case, domestication means something different. So we couldn't use that there. All right. But that would be absolutely ideal if you can find three words that work really well together. It captures a moment of calm productivity and perhaps also suggests something about the excitement of moving to a new home. So I think there's two phrases in this paragraph that we can copy and use for lots of different write about the photo questions. So the first one is, the photo evokes a sense of, and then you can say whatever feeling the photo gives you. So maybe a different photo, the photo evokes a sense of excitement. Okay, or if it's a very boring photo, it evokes a sense of boredom. So notice it has to be the noun. Think about the grammar there. And then the second one, it captures a moment of, and then something. It captures a moment of excitement, or it captures a moment of family harmony. Just before we move on, two other nice parts of sentences that you can learn. So the fourth one there is, this is evidenced by the piles of homeware, so from paragraph 2. And that one means this is shown. Evidenced is the same as shown. So we're saying, I think they're moving house, and here is the reason why I think that they're moving house. And then just after that, we say, it looks likely that they're packing up their kitchen. This is again a way of saying, I'm not sure, but I think that's what's happening. So there we go. Now you know what the three most difficult DET writing questions are, and you have good vocabulary and strategies and all kinds of different things that you can use to make sure you get a high score. And of course, if you want to come back and review my 160 level answers, that's a great idea as well. And if you found this video useful, please give it a like and also subscribe so you don't miss our future DET videos. Now, just before we finish, let me give you a recommendation. This is the next video I think you should watch. This is a video that we made that has 25 of those sentences that you can learn and use for different question types and just add your own little details. And they are, as I said before, a great way to improve your score very quickly. So we've got 25 of them. The link is just up here, or you can follow the link under the video. I hope you enjoy that, and thank you for watching this video. I'm Francis from Last Minute English. Good luck in your DET. I'll see you next time.